Despite not getting the job done this weekend at Fox Raceway, Chase Sexton proved that he is indeed a 450 championship threat. But less than 6 months ago, the talk of the paddock was how the young rider from Illinois couldn't stay on the motorcycle and was throwing away wins left and right. With Supercross right around the corner, let's take a quick look at Sexton's worst crashes in his young racing career and see just how he's gotten over these issues to finally contend for a title. Sexton's road from crashing to contending is coming up right around the corner. For this list, these won't be in chronological order, but rather just a top 5 list of the most influential crashes in Sexton's career. Some of them the damage was more mental than physical, but let's get right into it. Number 5, Houston 2, 2021. Now this one comes in at number 5 because it was only the second race of Sexton's rookie season in the 450 class, so you gotta cut him a little bit of slack. After taking the whole shot, Sexton was maintaining a comfortable lead when his Honda kicked sideways in the sand section and launched him into the face of the next jump. Sexton escaped major injury, but the crash held him out of competition for over a month and a half, but the deeper issue came in the form of rocked confidence. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Number 4, Minneapolis 2022. Despite grabbing his first win only a few weeks prior in San Diego, Sexton experienced one of his most well-known crashes in Minneapolis during round 7 of the 2022 Supercross Championship. As the clock ticked to 0 in the 450 main event, the 22-year-old rider lost control of his motorcycle as the front wheel gained traction, coming out of a 180-degree turn. The result was Sexton flying nearly 15 feet from where the accident began, crashing into the Minnesota dirt. The bigger problem for Sexton was the timing of the crash. He was cruising to his second ever Supercross victory rather easily. In the process, he looked to become a legitimate championship contender for 2022. Rather than achieve this goal of being a championship contender and gaining points on the leader, Sexton did not finish the race and ultimately threw away his title hopes while he was able to line up next week. This crash in particular rocked his confidence. Number 3, Atlanta 2022. While the Atlanta round of Supercross was not the biggest crash in Sexton's career by far, the mental implications of this one far outweighed that of the physical. By round 14 of the 2022 season, it was Eli Tomac and Jason Anderson that were running away with the title. For Sexton, all he really wanted to do was win another race or two to prove that he could fight for a title in the following season. After stealing the lead from Justin Barcia early in the race, it looked like Sexton could ride away with the win. At this point, Tomac had suffered a knee injury earlier in the race, Roxon wasn't even in the lineup, Webb had been off the pace all year, and Anderson was several seconds behind. But coming into the 180-degree turn located near turn 4 of the oval, Sexton leaned the bike over too much, falling off his machine, and was briefly trapped under the bike as a result of the crash. Despite not being injured, Sexton had thrown away the lead once again. Even with the advantage, he ended up on the ground. Because of how many times it had happened during the season, mentally, it was a tough pill to swallow. Number 2, Detroit 2022. Now, Detroit Supercross was not kind to the Honda rider. After nearly taking out Eli Tomac in a heat race by crossing over into the rhythm lane from the whoops, Sexton looked like he was already on the edge of control. By the time the main event came, he was landed on by Cooper Webb, resulting in a gnarly tear of his jersey and yet another DNF. From a pain perspective, this was probably one of the craziest crashes I've ever seen. The road rash on his shoulder was deep, and by this point, I couldn't believe that he was able to get up. What's even more incredible is the fact that he did not miss the following week. The guy was made of steel. But regardless, the crash was big enough to result in another DNF. But before we get to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Arlington 3, 2021. Sexton loses it in the sand and goes down hard, causing more missed time with a shoulder injury. Unadilla 2021. After getting a decent start, the young rider crashed in front of the field, resulting in a much worse finish than he would have had he not gone down. Salt Lake City 2020. After landing on Colt Nichols, Sexton dramatically changed the course of Colt's career by causing a hand injury, although Sexton remained unscathed. But now we get to number 1, Seattle 2022. Seattle was the turning point for Sexton. In qualifying, the young rider either missed a shift or had a bike problem, which caused his body to fly over the handlebars and get landed on by his motorcycle downhill yet again. The crash knocked Chase out of the night show in the following round of competition, but for the level of speed that the crash carried, it's an easy number 1 for the list. It was the first time in 2021 that Sexton had missed a race. But how did Sexton suddenly turn it around to become a championship contender so fast? After all, these crashes were fairly recent. Well, in every one of these situations, Sexton showed extreme mental and physical toughness despite not getting the result that he deserved. After the Minneapolis crash, he tried to remount the bike after flying through the air. Even though he was waved off by the marshals, his first thought was to get back on the bike, not give up. After crashing in Atlanta, he mounted a charge all the way back up to 3rd and easily could have won the race. At Unadilla, when he crashed in front of the field, he rebounded to finish 11th in the moto and score a runner-up finish in the second moto. Sexton is both mentally and physically tough, and not enough people give him credit for that. Most guys suffering that many crashes would significantly reduce their speed to stay on the bike, but Sexton looks to possess a little bit of that James Stewart attitude, where he just continues to go faster. And with technique as good as Chase's, you'd hope that at some point he could limit the mistakes and contend for a title, which is exactly what we saw in 2022 outdoors. I think the pieces of an era dominated by Chase Sexton have always been there. Winning in the 450 class just takes time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. All of these crashes and heartbreaks have built up Sexton to contend for the Supercross Championship in 2023. While there are still mistakes that can be cleaned up, he's come a long way, and I truly think this is just the beginning of an era that we see Chase Sexton on top of the box more often than not. Anyway guys, that's all I have for you today, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe so we can keep bringing this type of content your way. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see y'all in the next video.